I hope nation states start paying greater attention to is the rise of cryptocurrency, because what looks like a very interesting and somewhat exotic effort to literally mine new coins in order to trade with them has the potential for undermining currencies, for undermining the role of the dollar as the reserve currency.
You're goddamn right.
What's going on, guys? K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great day today. Now, it has been exactly a week since the launch of the Bitcoin ETF, and there has been a lot of speculation, a lot of people having opinions on, what this means for Bitcoin, what exactly is happening. And a lot of people I've heard are quite disappointed, saying that they had been hoping that there would have been a bigger move for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And what I kind of wanted to talk about today, and I think this is the perfect time to bring it up, is that we do have a bit of a problem. Now, this problem does not exactly have anything to do with Bitcoin specifically itself. It's just something that I've been noticing, and I've been keeping very quiet about this, but I think it's about time that we speak up, because I still think there are a lot of people out there that are missing a very important piece of the puzzle. And what I want to do today is sort of break down what is happening, because just real quick, if we have a look, and I do want to get to more TA by the end of this, if we have a look at what Bitcoin is doing right now, you could see that we were basically trading sideways, between this range of about 44,000 and 40,000. And then as we were approaching that ETF, you could see we had this surge, right? We had this crazy pump all the way up to $49,000. And then we had this massive sell-off all the way down to $41,000. So everybody was saying that this was this crazy sell the news event. But I mean, realistically speaking, just from what I'm looking at right now, if we have a look, all we did was we had this little fake out, right? We actually got up to a very specific level that we've been talking about for months on this channel. I will go over this at the end of the video. And now we're just back in the range again. So does Bitcoin actually have the possibility of going a bit lower? Well, I will get into the TA. I'll show you exactly what I'm looking at. But realistically, again, just popping back and having a look right here, really, if you take this area out right here, Bitcoin is doing the same exact thing that it was doing before we even had the ETF. You can see right here, obviously there was a massive sell on these candles for the daily over here on iShares, but at the same time, this happened. You have this price discovery. A lot of this had to do, you could argue maybe there was something going on with the GBTC. We've talked about that, how a lot of those people are swapping out of their positions, but you can see you have this massive sell, pressure here, this candle, then this price discovery down here, and now we're potentially starting to find a little bit of a bottom. Now, just keep in mind, if you have a look at the yearly candle thus far, we are actually still in the green on the year, so we still are up on the year, but it's a little bit of an indecisive candle, and of course, a lot of this coincides with the fact that the S&P has still not put in a new all-time high. Now, I'm not saying that Bitcoin's price action has to necessarily follow the S&P, but as we've stated, a lot of people who do invest in the traditional space, specifically people who have a position in the S&P, are kind of waiting for that confirmation. They want to see that new level get broken before they get that new sense of risk on is truly back on, and that could be having something to do with Bitcoin as well. So I want to break it down realistically for you, and hopefully by the end of this video, you'll kind of understand why I've been a little bit quiet for the past week. So let's start off right here, and make sure you stick around for the TA, because I think you're going to really understand exactly what's going on, and maybe it'll help you to understand. So you have Bitcoin ETF volume bigger than all 500 ETFs launched in the year 2023. So this is pretty massive when you think about it. The Bitcoin ETF has already surpassed all other 500 of the ETFs that were just launched in the previous year. That in and of itself, I think, would be a massive victory. But again, I can hear people out there, well, what's going on? Why aren't we having a bigger price move? Well, we have talked about this in the past, but you did have Cantor Fitzgerald's CEO discussing Bitcoin over at Davos, and I just wanted to play this clip from him super quick before I kind of let you know where I'm coming from.
So remember when gold ETFs started? They were very exciting in '04, and it kind of stayed steady. There was all this hype that everyone's going to buy gold, and oh, come on. So I think Bitcoin ran up. It's kind of stay steady. But when the halving comes, it's going to start to rally and grow. So Bitcoin, I think, will grow.
So one of the biggest misconceptions I think about this Bitcoin ETF is that what a lot of people don't understand is that the markets tend to be forward thinking, right? They generally tend to price things in, or at least let's just say they anticipate, right? So the anticipation up to the Bitcoin ETF, that's why we saw that crazy spike, because remember, we were just bouncing around in that area between 40 and 45 for quite a long time. Then as the day is approaching, as we're hearing all this good news come out, we have that pump, we have that crazy wick to the downside, and what happens? We have that sort of sell the news event, even though we're right back where we were. So, I mean, it really wasn't a sell the news event. Actually, let me go back to the LevX chart super quick. I know we're talking about this, but look, if we're over here and we're having a look at the daily, right? You could say, oh, that sucks. But watch this. If you switch this to the weekly, right? Which one of these candles looks out of place? It's this one right here. If you get rid of this wick, right, just scribble that out in your mind, Bitcoin is still just in a sideways consolidating pattern. And generally after a move like this signals that the market is getting ready to potentially maybe move more to the upside. Of course, more on that later. I don't want to harp on that, but if we just hop over here and have a look, and I hope I'm not in the way. If I am, I'll minimize my box or whatever. But this is gold, right? And you could see from 1996, right, we had gold, basically, if we follow this all the way over here, we had gold trading at around 400, right? And then it was dipping down somewhere in the 300s up to 500, and it was just literally doing this from 1996 all the way until November 4th of 2004, when we had the gold ETF launch. Now, you can see there was a bit of excitement, right, going up into that. But if we zoom in right here, what did gold actually end up doing after that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then finally on the 10th month, gold broke out. So the gold ETF launches, gold goes sideways for about 10 months. And then wait, what did gold end up doing for the next few years? That's right, guys. Over 300%, massive price discovery, with the exception of, a couple little dips along the way. But I think we can say that compared to what we saw here, the ETF was in fact good for the gold price. But keep in mind, gold went sideways for 10 months. Now, I'm not saying that Bitcoin's going to go sideways for 10 months, right? Because obviously Bitcoin is a much smaller market cap, right? A little bit easier to move the price. And we also have the halving coming up, right? So I don't think we're going to necessarily see Bitcoin go sideways for 10 months, but there is that possibility that maybe we don't really get any crazy price action immediately, or we go down and retest some of those lower levels, right? But I don't think anyone here would deny that the gold ETF was bad for gold in any way. It's just that, you had that run up, and then you have a little bit of that moment where you cool off, right? People get accustomed to it. Okay, now I have the opportunity. And again, that's where you wait for your friend to start buying, for the family office to open it up. Vanguard, they're not offering it to their customers. Why? I don't know, because hilariously, they're invested in MicroStrategy. So again, watch what they do, not what they say. We've gone over that time and time again. But, if we just come over here, one of the bigger implications about the ETF being the ETF going live in the US is that this is actually opening up the doors to a lot of other players. There are a lot of people, I should say a lot of countries, a lot of jurisdictions that kind of do, believe it or not, still look to the US. And if the US is against something, then they kind of step back and go, wait, why is the US against this? Or if the US is for something, right, then they'll be like, oh, well, why is the US for it? And the US just launched a spot Bitcoin ETF. In fact, we launched 11 of them. And this is going to open up the doors potentially to more cash flow over time from some of these other jurisdictions.
Like, these dominoes have to fall, right? Like, it doesn't, even if you're remotely thinking about adopting Bitcoin or maybe putting 1% on a central bank balance sheet, like if your enemies or countries that you don't really like, if they go, like you have to go. What do you think about this? What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I fully agree. All the dominoes are going to fall. And I think that a lot of countries are still, or countries, regulators, financial authorities, etc., they all look towards the US for guidance. So I think we did see, like, I've known that for a while that there is a spot ETF that's in discussions and getting close to approval in Hong Kong. This is from months ago, last year. But we've seen other media post about it. I think Bitcoin Magazine posted to a few weeks ago, and then they deleted it for some reason. I'm not sure why. And then recently there's another a politician in Hong Kong saying that we need to accelerate this, but it is underway, and they are looking to the U.S. as a rule setter or trend setter or the benchmark for whether there should or should not be a spot ETF.
Yeah.
Even there's an ETF being filed in Australia by Monochrome. I believe that the Australian regulator is also holding off on that, or we're holding off on that, kind of waiting for the US to make the move. So that will come, and that unlocks a lot of capital. And what you touched on earlier was a point I think I made as well. But in Hong Kong, well, Hong Kong doing something does mean that Bitcoin is okay because Beijing okayed it.
Yeah.
Hong Kong would not do that if Beijing says no. And Hong Kong is sort of like the financial center, not for all of China, right? So all the mainland China money will flow to Hong Kong and access that ETF.
And of course, there's always just going to still be those naysayers, right? You guys may have seen this is going quite viral over on Twitter right now. We have Jamie Dimon bashing Bitcoin again, calling it a pet rock.
Think if a cryptocurrency has an embedded smart contract in it, and that we can use it to buy and sell real estate and move data, that may have value.
The idea of tokenizing things.
Tokenizing things that you do something with. And then there's one which does nothing. I call it the pet rock, the Bitcoin or something like that. And so on the Bitcoin, there's, first of all, and I'm not trying to make a joke here. There are use cases, AML, fraud, anti-money laundering, tax avoidance, trafficking. Those are real use cases, and you see it being used for hundreds, maybe $50, $100 billion a year for that. That is the end use case. Everything else is people train among themselves.
Et cetera. We've seen this before, even though he's an active participant in the ETF itself, but we're just going to not talk about that because we know Jamie Dimon tends to lie about a lot. But as I was alluding to in the beginning of this video with that first intro clip, obviously it is a threat to the traditional system. Jamie Dimon is a banker. He doesn't want you using Bitcoin. He's going to tell you that it's used for all these different types of purposes, even though we know that JP Morgan actually settled a $75 million, situation with the Epstein, I'm not going to go into that. But Bitcoin, that's the one that's bad, right? No, it's because it threatens their institution. Like Hillary said in the beginning, it has the potential to destabilize things like the U.S. currency. Now, obviously, I don't want to see the dollar collapse, even though I know a lot of people out there are rooting for that. Yeah, it might be good for Bitcoin, but it might be really crappy if you're a U.S. citizen. So I don't know if I'm, calling for the imminent, collapse of the dollar. But I do think over time, more people are going to start allocating to things like Bitcoin. You've already seen the BRICS nations basically saying we don't need to deal with the petrodollar, right? We'll do our own thing. We'll buy barrels of oil using rubles or whatever we want, right? And this is going to be a theme that you're going to see happening more and more and more. And when you have something like Bitcoin that is censorship resistant, it's borderless, there's no one in control. I'm not going to get over the whole 51% attack hash rate thing. Look, at this point, guys, it's sufficiently decentralized and it would cost a lot of money, let's be honest, to continuously attack the network. But, people are learning. And when they talk about Bitcoin being this rogue money, I thought Mitch Hoddle kind of broke it down pretty well.
A mainstream media reporter recently described Bitcoin as rogue money. And this is actually correct, but it's because all money is rogue money. Money stems naturally in a free market. It does not come from government. Government is not necessary for money to exist. Humans must solve the coincidence of wants. I have something and I want to trade with you, but you don't want the thing that I have. We need some medium there to facilitate that trade. Moreover, I produce excess value to society than what I consume, what I demand in return. I need something to store the excess fruits of my labor. Humans naturally converge on a single best money, the money that has the properties that make it a great store value, medium of exchange, and unit of account. For most of human existence, that money was gold, but that changed as the speed of information and trade grew. Fiat became the best money, and this is the primary reason for the misunderstanding and false belief that money comes from government. Money does not come from government, but for the last 100 years, fiat government money actually was the best, especially as it pertains to a medium of exchange. The physical nature of gold, it's a heavy, clunky metal. It was not able to facilitate trade nearly as quickly as we needed it to. So humans have used fiat as the medium of exchange. And what they've done is they've outsourced the store of value function of money to other assets. Gold still, real estate, stocks, debt, fine art. All of these things are functioning as separate monies because fiat itself is only good as a medium of exchange. But now Bitcoin is the best money. It can be a medium of exchange, store value, and unit of account. It's far superior to fiat or any other asset at these three functions. So yes, Bitcoin is a rogue money, but all monies are. And economies converge on the best money, and that money is Bitcoin. This convergence won't happen overnight, but it's already starting to take place. Bitcoin's only 15 years old and has millions of users, tens of thousands of node runners, and a nation state has already adopted it as legal tender. The grassroots movement that is Bitcoin will continue to rise. We won't get a Bitcoin standard tomorrow. We probably won't get a Bitcoin standard in the next 5 years. But in the next 10, 20, 50, it's more than likely. Humans want the best money. That is Bitcoin.
And just to clarify, there is a difference between money and currency. As you guys can see right here, the term money and currency are often thought to mean the same thing. However, while related, they have different meanings. Money is a broader term, right, that refers to an intangible system of value that makes the exchange of goods and services possible now and in the future. Currency is simply one tangible form of money, and currency is usually thought about as fiat, which is issued by a government, which is based on trust, or in our case, some people say it's backed by the military, but it's really not backed by anything. It's backed by the faith that when I give you $1, you will accept that dollar and it will be $1. But there is nothing else to it, right? Whereas Bitcoin is sound, it's finite. You can't just print more whenever you want. You can't just remove some out of the system whenever you want. There isn't anyone controlling it, and you don't have to rely on any group of individuals for the network to work. And believe it or not, you don't even really have to rely on the miners, because if 75% of the miners decided, hey, we're just going to pack up shop and shut off all our machines today. I don't know why they would do that. Maybe it gets too difficult to mine, but that's the beauty of Bitcoin. We have an adjustment, right? We have a difficulty adjustment. Eventually, it will adjust, and hey, if we got to go back to just, guys in their basement, just, people mining on their laptops, well, hey, that's what it's designed to do. It's designed to increase difficulty with the participants, and the hash rate obviously would, obviously decrease a little bit. That would kind of suck, but the system would keep working, and it would continue to be a fair ledger, balanced on both sides, right? And that is really a sound form of money. So this whole unit of account currency thing, okay, we get where it's coming from, but at the end of the day, when we're talking about money, Bitcoin is in fact the hardest and soundest form, and that is something that is going to take a while, but it will inevitably be understood by the masses. Keep in mind, Bitcoin's 15 years old, right? If Bitcoin was a person, Bitcoin would what? Be getting its learner's permit, not even ready to drive yet? You're gonna let Bitcoin get behind the wheel with a CDL and drive an 18-wheeler? Not just yet. Not just yet. But there is potential. There is potential for that, right? And even Elon Musk, who, he was over here on this space with Kathy Woods and a few others, and he does talk about the fact that he maybe doesn't think about Bitcoin a lot, and he's always making his Doge, comments, but he still kind of can't deny the engineered, scarcity of Bitcoin.
It's not great for a transaction as a high volume transaction system. It is very good for engineered scarcity, kind of like gold or something like that. In fact, I think it was originally called BitGold in the evolution of idea. So that seems to be where its main use is. I guess there is some talk of like the Lightning Network on top of Bitcoin. Yeah, I'm open to the idea of using Bitcoin. I mean, it's like I said, it's of the various things that I think about Bitcoin very little. But I've thought about monetary systems a lot, and the actual practicalities of exchanging money, or money is really just data, information in a database, and it basically, money is an information system for labor allocation.
So on that note, I wanted to drop into the TA because there's a lot I think we should talk about today about what people are looking at. There's a lot of calls again about that was it was the big sell the news event, and we're going to go all the way back down to some of these lower levels. Look, anything is possible, but I'm going to tell you what I'm looking at, and this is not my opinion. This is just absolutely what I'm seeing in the charts. You could see from August of last year, roughly August 17th of 2023, Bitcoin basically has gone up nonstop, about 93.7% roughly, without any significant pullback, okay? Without any significant correction, realistically speaking. I guess you could say we had this correction that we just had off this pump. But, again, zooming in here, if you just kind of scribble out this area, right? Like we just kind of scribble this area out right here, it looks basically like we're just range bound, again, between that $44,000 to $40,000 area. And the significance of this blue zone, going all the way back here, you could see why. The bottom of the blue zone starts with the first tap before the significant correction in January 2021. And then the box top ends with the first significant pullback in March of 2021. right? So that's where we get this zone. And you can see how many times this zone is interacted with over the course of the past 2 years. Obviously the first initials, right? Then we have this touch here. We have a secondary touch here. We have a secondary resistance here. Now we have a support here. Then look at this. We have this crazy wick that came down here. I believe, I don't remember what caused that specifically. I don't really remember why we got that. Somebody correct me. But look, that acted as the support. It also was an area that we hung out around. Right here, you can argue we interacted with it a lot, but this is obviously moving on. Again, here, we have more resistance again. And moving forward, now we got to go way, way, way over to where we are right now. What are we doing? Well, we're hanging around in that area, right? Every time we break below that area, you could see that we're getting bought up. We got bought back up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different times, or it sat there as the base. And again, as we come up here, you could see that there was a little bit of resistance at the top of it. There was support right here. We had support right here with the exception of this wick, which by the way, got completely bought back up to the top of that level. And currently that's where we're hanging out again today. So really, this is just the market behaving how you would expect the market to behave. Now, if we were to break down from this blue zone as some sort of a resistance, well, there's a few different things we can look at. We have the top of this parallel channel right here, right, where we can have this potential, drawdown here, or we have this, trend right here. So, if you're thinking that we got to fall all the way down, even if we came down completely to this level right now, you're still looking at about a $30,000 area. And the interesting thing was we had this megaphone pattern that was forming, and originally we were looking at this in a log. And we know that whenever we come out of this Gaussian channel, we come out of the red, generally speaking, we start forming this megaphone pattern, and we do start the beginning of the massive rally. So the same exact thing is happening right here. Coming over here logarithmically, if we have a look, you could see that this was the area of resistance. And every time we've attempted to break above this, Bitcoin has been rejected, but it's okay. It's okay. Even if we had a rejection, some people are worried, right? We're going to come all the way back down here or something like that. By the way, we're not going to fall straight down, but if you want to just be devil's advocate, if we fell straight down today, let's just say we had the worst possible news that ever came out and Bitcoin just fell, the bottom of this area is around $30,000, right? Which is still not these crazy levels that these people are calling for. I don't think you're going to see a $20,000 Bitcoin. And at the same time, you're also going to have, this channel is going to slowly start curving up, right? It's going to slowly start curving up as well. And you could see how much support that provided. I'm not making these numbers up, guys. You could see the support. You could see how that plays out. And the other thing, and I know this is a very messy chart, just kind of ignore all the moving averages for a second here. As we had pointed, you could see we had this giant falling wedge. You could see it right in here. I'll kind of highlight it for you. Here's the top of the wedge. Here's the bottom of the wedge, right? And within that wedge, we had this target where you take the top, you go to the bottom. This is just textbook. This is like textbook 101 trading. You bring it to the bottom of the retest of the breakout, and look at where that brings us. It brings us to the 0.618 Fibonacci, which is $48,766, okay? We were hanging around the 0.5, and look at exactly, you can't make this up, guys. This, according to this chart, we had a high of $49,084. The Fibonacci is sitting at 48,766. So a slight overshot of around $400+, okay? This is playing out and acting exactly as we thought it would, right? If you look back here, this money flow, even though we did have some pullbacks along the way, you could see that the price did continue up in the long term. In the short term, it got a little bit rough. Down here, if you have a look at this money flow, look at this money flow, guys. This money flow is flowing to the upside. This is not curving over. Yes, the RSI is a little bit oversold, which does suggest that there could be a little bit of short-term turbulence, but the parabola has not been broken. We hit the 0.618, which is what we thought we would, and we're still hanging around the 0.5. We still haven't even broken below the lowest level. So really, to even start getting bearish, literally bearish, where you think we're just going to keep going down, you have to at least break and hold below $40,000 for a week. So if we have Bitcoin breaking and holding below $40,000 for a week, yeah, then I'll start getting maybe bearish. But the other thing to mention is we have this upward sloping channel, and we have a CME futures gap. We've had this gap. This gap is sitting at roughly $40,310. So again, it is not out of the cards to close this gap. Bitcoin has closed, off the top of my head, I don't know, but it's somewhere around 94%, I believe, of all gaps it's ever created. So the probability, if I told you that there was a 94% chance that, if you play this, if you gamble on this table, you're going to win, you'd probably play that game, right? Yeah, there's a 6% chance you're going to lose, but there's a 94% chance you're going to win. Well, there's about a 94% chance that Bitcoin is in fact going to close this box based on statistics. So again, that was would say that yes, Bitcoin could in fact have a quick wick down, close the box at 40,000, or, we come down and we retest the top of this trend, right? Down here, the bottom of the heart line was acting as the resistance, the heart line in the center. Right here, the heart line is now acting as the support. Right here, the heart line is acting as multiple support. So does it, if we're following the patterns going from the lower to the mid, well, now you would probably suggest that you may get some support around that 35 area and continue, on the upside of that channel. Same thing right here. This is the one thing that was concerning me, to be honest with, a while ago, is I felt that this move, you see all these green candles in here? That to me was a little too excessive, because this blue zone had such a large area of accumulation, especially on the volume range, which I don't unfortunately have pulled up right now. I guess I could just kind of pull it up right now. Hold on. Got to kind of, it's kind of hard because we're dealing with all this down here. Obviously, major area right here. But, I mean, you can see, look at that big chunk right here. And you see how it just completely coincides with all of this trading? We kind of just blasted right through that. So that, to me, was always a little bit sus, just going to be honest. That felt a little too quick. Because even here, we'd have the candle, consolidate, retrace. Candle, consolidate, retrace. We didn't really do that. We had massive candles, and then now we're just consolidating sideways. So, again, having a retest anywhere in this blue zone, this area 37, next area 32, and bottom area 29. But the reason that I don't think the 29 area is going to hold is because we have these legacy trend lines that date all the way back to July of 2017, right? So you can see right here, right here, right here, and then I made a new one starting on the COVID wick. But what was really interesting is that whether you took that line from back here, I'm gonna get this VPVR off again, it's kind of like tripping me out. Whether you took that line from way back here or you started here, they both coincided right here, which marked the absolute bottom of the market. And then we started a new trend, right? So either way, and again, Bitcoin's not going to drop straight down. That's just not how price action works. You do something like this, bounce around, come down, get some support, maybe fall to this area, and maybe by the time it does catch this bottom, you're still only in the $31,000 to $32,000 range. So again, I am not personally freaking out. I think that, again, long term, this ETF, we already went over this chart. The ETF is going to be, something massive. The gates are open and it takes time, right? It took gold 10 months, like I showed you guys, before it even was able to break that level. So, we have the money flow, and just looking at some of these weeklies, right? We've had multiple golden crosses, and we still haven't even tested any of these. So even if, you're just looking at it logically, the most logical is the 21 exponential on the weekly, which is this green line right here. And, that level is sitting at around 32. Now, obviously, as time goes by, this level is going to continue to move up. So, if Bitcoin takes longer to get to those levels, then there's less and less chance that we're going to get down to those levels unless something catastrophic happens, right? But we still also have, this trend here. This is another trend I just kind of drew where this was the outlier. This was the bear trap. So, that level, is still sitting around 38. So my point I'm trying to make is there's a lot of untapped levels that Bitcoin could have the possibility to retrace down to, taking out that, 0.618 Fibonacci. But again, on the macro, everything that you're seeing here, way above the EMA ribbon, super guppy flashing green, right? If I get rid of that, right? Look, there it is right there. You can see the green, but I kind of like the way it looks with actually all the colors on it. Kind of really puts into perspective. And then, again, you have a little bit of this RSI finally dipping back below 70. But remember, I only said that as long as we stayed above this for 3 weeks, that would put us in the category of every time having these breakouts, having these bigger moves. I kind of pointed it out right here, and you can see continuation to the upside, And we also have the MACD cross right here, actually coinciding perfectly, which is kind of crazy with the guppy. So yeah, I mean, until we get something that's showing us that we need to be flipping bearish, there's no reason to be flipping bearish. I think what could end up happening is like, and of course, I'm not Nostradamus. I don't know if this is what's going to happen, and any analyst who tells you he knows what's going to happen, tomorrow is a liar. Nobody knows. I know what's going to happen long term. Bitcoin's going to go up, and it's going to go up a lot faster than most people are thinking it's going to go up. And I still think that we could have an all-time high by the end of this year. And everybody's like, oh, how are we going to have an all-time high when we had the biggest news and we had a rejection? Again, guys, gold consolidated for 10 months, and we're only in January. There's over 11 months left in this year. You gotta just be a little bit patient. And kind of just to rant a little bit, That was the issue that I was having. And that's why I stayed a little bit silent, because there were a lot of people commenting very negative, not on my videos, you guys are cool, but like over on Twitter, you know, someone would be putting out the statistics of the ETF or like all the money that flew in and all this other stuff. And it would just be like a comment like, oh yeah, why is it dumping? Or like, oh yeah, well, and it's just like, guys, come on. Like, you know, like I don't want to sit here, and I don't have to sit here and answer those types of questions. Like if you, not you, I know you guys aren't, but if somebody is having doubts, you can always sell. You can sell your Bitcoin, right? There are opportunities to trade, right? The 0.618 was an opportunity to potentially put in a short. And hey, if you shorted it, great. But it would be dangerous, in my opinion, to maintain a short position for too long, because you don't know what's happening. And we do have momentum, and we do have the floodgates opening, right? Again, if the S&P was to have a massive pullback, let's say that it does double top right now, that could affect it, because now that you have opened the gates to these traditional investors, that might send the wrong signals to them. But either way, I think this ETF is going to spark the other ETFs like over in Hong Kong and these other places. And I think I'm not going to say I think. I know it's only going to be net positive, especially if you're just looking at the price, right? Every single person at some point, keep in mind, Bitcoin's only 15 years old. Okay, how old is the stock market? How old is gold? Okay, think about that. You know, you got to give it some time here. And looking at some of these base cases like $600,000 by the year 2030, you know, ARK Invest and all that, I think people would be quite surprised to see how those numbers could play out, you know, and the thing is when you get that parabolic move, it comes faster than you think. It's a lot of boring, sideways, choppy, you know, accumulation, distribution, whatever. And then you just get these blow-offs, right? So ultimately, I just want to kind of make that video to catch everyone up to speed. I stayed pretty silent over the past week because I knew there was going to be a lot of that negativity. Now that it's officially a week later, the price is exactly the same that it was the same week that the ETF came out. The thing that people are complaining about, you know, again, is this right here. This candle is still within this range, and it does look like it's tightening. So we will keep an eye on it. Again, I gave you some of the levels that I'm looking at that I would be worried, you know, breaking some of those key supports, you know, having some of these indicators, you know, have a fake out and flip the other way. Then I would get bearish. But you know, being neutral to bearish over like maybe the next couple weeks or a month or something like that, that has nothing to do with the long term of Bitcoin. It's just a little bit of a breather. It's a little bit of a consolidation period. So that's all I got for you today. Hope you guys enjoyed this content. Drop a like below, help share this information. I try to break it down pretty straightforward and simple. I try not to overhype in either direction. I try to be very level-headed. But again, right now, I'm just not bearish, and I don't care if the price retaps some of these lower levels. If we do have a retrace down to that 30, 32 box, which is possible, I'm just going to buy more. That's what I'm going to do. And I don't think it's going to go much lower than that. And I honestly don't even know if it's going to go that low, because there's a lot of people looking at the same chart. And there's a lot of people expecting the same things. So will it play out? That's to be said. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for coming back to the channel. You guys rock. Don't forget, we still have that LevX bonus going. They'll match any trade up to $5,000. They will give you a free trade, and you get 10% fee cash back for life. 10% for life. So it's basically like free money, guys. If you're interested, check out the Apex tutorial. Check out that below. Until next time, guys, stay crypto. And of course, peace out.